A few weeks ago, we made a video on the idea of the Vancouver Canucks taking their 11th overall pick in the 2023 NHL Entry Draft and trading up to try to get Leo Carlsson. The report was that the Canucks and Patrik Allvin very much liked him, and they were interested in a position to maybe try to move up, depending on if they could find a package that was worth it. Well, in this video, we're going to be talking about the opposite. Not trading up for Carlsson, but instead, the idea of the Vancouver Canucks trading down. And the reason this is coming up is because we had ourselves word the other day about the prospects that the Vancouver Canucks had taken out to dinner. Now, if you had followed the entire drafting story of the past few weeks, you would have seen the video we made a few days ago talking about how the Montreal Canadiens did not take anybody out to dinner. We talked about this as a tradition, why it normally happens, what value NHL teams could see out of this practice, and we talked about how Montreal just did not really see too much of that value. Either that, or we speculated, hey, maybe the guy they really wanted to take was not available, which is why they didn't take anybody out to dinner. But this time around, we're talking about Vancouver because they, in fact, did take some prospects out to dinner, and 3 of them are highlighted in this article by Harmondale from 2 days ago. As always, a link is going to be in the description if you want to go ahead and read this piece, what I'm hearing about the Canucks draft targets. But Harmon does go out there and tweet out the information that we're interested in looking at right here. The tweet says this: the Canucks took Tom Willander, Nate Danielson, and Colby Barlow out for dinners during the NHL Combine this week. And when you combine this with the information we had from Rick Dalibor as well, that they took out Zach Benson and Matthew Wood, it kind of paints a really interesting picture as to the prospects the Canucks are... Is targeting the right word? Okay, we'll use the word targeting for now. But we're not going to exclusively say that these are the only guys the Canucks are looking at, because saying it like they're targeting these players, it makes it seem like there are no other prospects the Canucks are interested in, which I don't think is the case. But when you talk about just these names in isolation, Tom Willander, Swedish defenseman out of Regla, Nate Danielson, WHL Brandon Wheat Kings guy, Colby Barlow, Owen Sound Attack forward, we made a Why I Want video about him, so you can go ahead and check that out. Zach Benson, we also made a Why I Want video about him, so you can check that out, also in the WHL, and Matthew Wood out of the NCAA. These guys, if you take a look at the average ranking for all of them, aside from Zach Benson, none of these players are really supposed to be taken in the position where the Vancouver Canucks are in this year's draft. And with this idea in mind, I wanted to talk in this video about how the Vancouver Canucks might actually just trade down. We'd already seen a few reports going out there saying that with the Canucks and their desire to free up salary cap space, they might have to go out there and trade away a guy like Connor Garland and use their 11th overall pick as a sweetener to do so. Maybe they trade down from 11 to somewhere at the end of the teens in order to get rid of Garland's contract. Maybe the Canucks free up money with Beauvillier or Tyler Myers or somebody, but the price is them having to move away from 11th. And so because this idea of the Canucks trading down to free up money was already floating around earlier, it makes a lot more sense to me when we acknowledge the prospects that they're interested in, or at least the ones that they were interested in enough to take to dinner, because all of these guys are not really supposed to go at 11. Let's head over to Tom Willander. We actually saw some reports out of Rick Dalibor saying the Canucks really liked him, or I think it was Dalibor, it might have been somebody else, but I'm not really too sure there. Tom Willander is a right-handed defenseman out of Regla BK in Sweden. Of course, he's Swedish because Patrik Allvin seems to have a tendency to prefer Swedish players. Surprise, surprise. And Willander is a guy who is projected to going 28th overall based off of his consolidated ranking. The highest ranking on here is, 17th overall by Flow Hockey and Chris Peters. The lowest ranking here, you've got 46th. TSN at Bob McKenzie. Recruit has him at number 51. So, big variance here. The average is at the end of the first round, and if the Vancouver Canucks are taking him out to dinner, I mean, look, they're not going to reach on this guy at 11. Right? Right? If it does mean they're interested in taking him in the first round, then I don't know if taking him at number 11 would be the best move possible. If you wanted this guy, maybe trading down would be more appropriate than staying at 11. Who really knows? Same could be said about Nate Danielson. Now, he is not in the same boat as Willander, where he's ranked towards the end of the first, but Nate Danielson, WHL center, his consolidated ranking is 16th. Definitely not a guy who is ranked to go somewhere near the top 10. Future considerations has him at number 27. You have a lot of other outlets in the mid-teens, late teens, and so this is another one of those guys where if the Canucks took him at 11, this would be kind of a reach, unfortunately. Colby Barlow is a different story. He's ranked to go at 11. His consolidated ranking is right there. Some outlets have him in the top 10, others have him towards the mid to late teens, so this one actually does make a lot of sense as to the Vancouver Canucks and their interest. For me personally, I'm not too sure if I would prefer Barlow at this spot, mostly because I don't know if his skill set is one the Canucks need more, but we did make a Why I Want video about him, so you can go ahead and check that out if you want it. Barlow is a power skater with a great shot, and he is an absolute goal-scoring machine. We saw the Canucks actually take a similar path with Jonathan Lekkerimäki last year, so if they really want to bolster up their goal-scoring prospect depth, then Colby Barlow seems to be the guy. But if you wanted to talk about the Canucks maybe sticking at 11 and just picking a guy there, Barlow seems like he could be an appropriate choice considering his skill set and his draft projection. Same could be said about Zach Benson. Now, Benson was born in Langley, and he played for Chilliwack's Minor Hockey Association as a kid. He is from here, and his consolidated ranking is 6th overall. He's an absolute workhorse with some beautiful playmaking abilities, and, I mean, look, some outlets are a little bit lower on him. They have him at number 14, for example, like Craig Button, but others have him at 5th overall, 6th overall, 8th overall, so this guy could be a top 10 pick, but there's been a growing sentiment amongst the draft community that maybe because he is a bit smaller, he's not as heavy, because his game may not be too projectable, he plays a lot on the outside, maybe he could drop somewhere in this year's draft. And we've been sort of seeing this growing idea that says maybe he is a top 15 guy rather than a top 10 guy or a top 5 guy. And so this is honestly one of those players where if he's available at 11 and the Vancouver Canucks take him, I actually like that a lot. I think Zach Benson could be a very good addition to the Canucks as they get older while getting younger at the same time. But there is some uncertainty as to where he is going to get drafted, mostly because a lot of other outlets are saying, okay, yeah, you got bigger guys, stronger guys at the NTDP, for example, that have more projectable frames. Some of them are as good at playmaking as Benson is, etc., etc. So it's really up for debate. Then you have yourselves Matt Wood, whom the Canucks also took out to dinner, His consolidated ranking is 17th overall. Now, he's a little bit bigger, 6'3", 190, and he actually was a point per game in the NCAA this previous season. He also played for the Victoria Grizzlies in the BCHL last year. He grew up playing his hockey in Nanaimo, so there definitely is a link to Vancouver here. But, like a lot of these other guys, his consolidated ranking is 17th. He is not supposed to be taken in that 11th overall spot. In fact, the highest ranking on here is Flow Hockey, Chris Peters. He has him at number 7. McKean's has him at 10. Craig Button actually has him at 11, so that's where the Canucks are picking. But a lot of these other outlets, Dauber has him at 33, Smart Scouting at 31, so this is not a player that's supposed to go anywhere near the top or where Vancouver is going to be picking. So if the Canucks really wanted to focus on one of these guys, Matt Wood or Tom Willander, Nate Danielson, then maybe trading down is the move. Maybe trading down, getting rid of somebody like Garland or Myers in the process, and then getting the prospect that you want at a lower pick is worth it in this respect if you're able to free up that money and you're able to guarantee that you're freeing up that money. And so, I want you to let me know in the comment section below, what are your opinions about this idea here? The Vancouver Canucks trading down in the 2023 draft to take one of these guys whom they've taken out to dinner, but also free up some money in the process. Do you like the sound of that? Does that make more sense to you than sticking at 11 and waiting for somebody to drop? If the Canucks do stick around at number 11, who do you want them to take? I've been on the David Reinbacher, Axel Sandin, Pelika train this entire time. I'd say Zach Benson, if he's available, would be great. Matvei Michkov, if he's available, that would be great. Colby Barlow, I feel like I would rather have somebody else, but if he is the guy, then he is the guy, I guess. But I definitely cannot be turned off by the idea of the Canucks trading down in this year's draft in order to free up some money, because there are some pretty good prospects available in the mid to late round as well. So you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Trolls 99, and bye.